Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV, and welcome back to my regular channel. It's so nice to be home again. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, everybody, and please give the show a like, and also if those who are new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Hey, guess what? I have my friend Diane Zeman. She's back on the show. As you all know, we attempted this show a couple of months ago, huh, Diane? And we should have success tonight. So everybody, let's welcome my friend Diane Zeman. Hey, Diane, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Well, we'll give it a shot again, Norene, see how it goes.
So tonight, you know what, Diane, honey? You might as well start the show off because it's about your experience, and you know, we went to Diane's. I was involved with a paranormal team, and that's how I met Diane. And she's a wonderful person, and I had gone up there several times for this paranormal investigating team that I was on, and we did have some fun. And of course, Donna Raymond, what she did to me, leaving me down in the field in the dark by myself.
Oh, when the dogs got out, remember?
Yes,
oh my God.
She ran like hell.
Our neighbors had pit bulls, and they stacked their wood up against the fence, and they got out, and they came running after. Oh my God, I just saw blood.
Oh my God.
That was crazy.
So anyway, tell Diane, tell everybody why you're on here tonight, and what you want to tell the viewers about your experience, which is pretty freaky.
Well, it started for me in 2006 when we used to live in the Central Valley in California, and we moved up to the Gold Country up in Amador County in a town called Pioneer, to some mountain property it was a brand new house, and the land had just been developed, and we had our own acreage. So there was people around us, but they were distant. So everybody had their own little spot. But we moved up there in 2004, and everything seemed to be fine. But in 2006, my daughter had a friend that was spending the summer with us, and they came to me late summer and told me they had been seeing something that was running outside on our property. They were 16, and I was always busy, and I listened and didn't pay much, just figured it was just some teenage 16-year-old girl stuff, and they were crazy girls, and who knows what they're seeing outside, like a raccoon or whatever. And they described it to me, but I really didn't pay that much attention. And then about 2 months later, I was coming home from a little trip to our local market down the road, and I had my 7-year-old son in the car with me. And we had a dirt road that led up to our property, and right before I turned into the little circular drive to go in front of our house, it was broad daylight. And this thing crossed the road in front of me, just like sprinted and then jumped.
Yeah, do you want me to show them the image that you drew?
Yeah, that's what I ended up drawing later. You can show that. That's about it. I'm no artist, keep in mind to your listeners there, but that's about as close as I could get to what it looked like. It was sharply outlined in black. It was almost like a cardboard cutout that you could see through that was moving. And it looked to me, the shadow of it looked like it had like a pompadour style.
Well, it looks American Indian to me.
Yeah, and the shoulders were really broad, and then they narrowed down at the waist like a V. And he was very tall. He was definitely male. But he had very elongated arms and elongated legs. I couldn't see his feet, but his knees and arms were just bopping as he was running. His back was straight, and his knees were coming up, and his arms were pumping, and he was just beating the band, just running to beat the band. And then he leapt past a tree, and he was gone.
And now, Diane, how transparent? Was he solid or was he transparent?
No, he was somewhat transparent. The edges of him were solid black. Like somebody had taken a really thick black magic marker and drawn it out, and then put it on a movement, and had it, put movement to it and let it run across the road in front of me. And part of it reminded me of, if you've ever seen the movie, what was that one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers?
The Predator.
The Predator.
Yeah.
Part of it reminded me of that. But it was a little clear. The outside of it was clearer. It was sharply defined.
Oh my God.
It was probably about 8 to 9 feet tall. And his arms were really long.
Diane, when you saw that, were you scared?
I looked down at my son, who's sitting right next to me in the front seat of my Mercury Mountaineer SUV, and he was looking down at a little truck or car that I had bought him at the store, thankfully. And the first thing that came to my mind was, what is that? And the second thing was, this is what my daughter was talking about. And I was thankful that he didn't see it. I pulled into the drive, and I told Noah, my son, to stay there. And I got out of the car, and I went around, and I got him out of the car. He's like, Mommy, why are you doing that? I said, well, I just wanted to give you a hug. I didn't want to scare him, because he didn't see it.
Oh, he didn't?
No, he didn't. And I went in the house, and my daughter was in the kitchen, and I said, I think I just saw what you guys were telling me about. She's like, I know, right? Was he running? It's like, yeah, he was running, because she would imitate it, and it's like, what? But, I wasn't scared. I was confused. Because this isn't something that you walk outside and you see every day.
No.
And it's like I wrote in my book that it would have been much easier on me if it had been a lady in Victoria clothing floating across my living room floor, because then I could look at it and say, oh, it's a ghost. I mean, I would have probably yelled it, oh, it's a ghost, but...
I'm going to show him the road it ran across.
Yeah. And it was in daylight, these things where, it's built into you that this stuff happens at night, and they make noises, and and I started doing research on what this is, and trying to find a way to describe it on Google in captions so I could get the exact wording down. I can't even begin to tell you how many different kinds of descriptions I gave it. But it just didn't match up with shadow person or ghost or any of that stuff. So I started writing about it on a forum. And you had a woman on your show a couple weeks ago that had that demonic experience.
Well, I've had several of them. Which one are you talking about?
The one that had it from her childhood?
Well, both of them. So which one?
Not Andrea.
No. I've had stalked by a demon, Tess?
Yeah, her.
Okay.
She had talked about how she wrote on a forum about her experiences through the ghost hunter's taps. That's where I went with my story. And I wrote it all out. It was a couple, 2-3 paragraphs. And I sat there, and then I walked away from it, and I went to bed, and I got up, and I took a deep breath, and I hit enter, because I just knew that people were going to, number one, think I'm crazy, number two, laugh at me, or number three, just totally disregard it. And then people started responding, and I can't tell you how much that meant to me, because who's going to help you other than these kind of people?
Now, Diane,
with this stuff.
Now, Diane, people need to know
where
your property was and the activity and go ahead and tell them about your property.
Well, the property was, and this is stuff that we were finding out later. When Donna came up with the very first group that she was in, I had written to her. I didn't even know who she was. She responded, and she came up, and she started doing research on the property. which was in a town called Pioneer. And we couldn't get a lot of information about the background of it because the name had changed and la-da-da, whatever. But there was a predominantly, the residents up there were the Miwok Indians, were the predominant Native American group up in that area. And then I started to talk to people, and they were, they have a burial ground here, and they have a burial ground there, and so you start thinking maybe this has something to do with it, although it didn't appear to be a ghost or anything like that. But I think in the scope of all these things unknown, I think everything is related somehow.
Well, Diane, not only were the Miwok Indians on that land, but recently, they've been having a lot of UFO sightings in that area.
There was a UFO sighting up there. I even went to MUFON because this wasn't the only experience that happened up there. I mean, there were things outside that were running across my deck. And if you have the picture of the back of my house... No,
I don't have it.
Okay. If they go to the website, noearthlyidea.com website, and they can look in the photos, there's a picture of the back of the house. But I had a situation where at 1 o'clock in the morning, I've got something running across my big wooden deck. It sounded like a 200-pound guy in steel-toed boots, just boom, 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 boom. And talk about knocking you off your feet. But we found, digging around at the base of the property, we found grinding stones and beads and things that I think were buried somewhere down in there, which we left alone. And then we also found posts that were buried from a structure that had been burnt to the ground.
Well, that was down behind your deck in those trees, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the back 40 we called it. Yeah. But there had been, right past where we lived, there's this area on the little freeway there, little highway there that goes through the town. It's called 13 Turns because there's 13 turns. And somebody had reported a UFO sighting in the middle of the 13 turns, which probably wasn't very far from our house, although I never saw anything in the sky. Of course, after this happened to me, I didn't really look in the sky because at that point I didn't want to know. But there was something up there.
Now, also, Diana, your neighbors were having issues as well.
We, up until the time when we left, well, the lady down at the end of the road, see, we only had one way in and one way out of our property. And there were 4 people. My house, the people that were what you would call across the lane from us.
Right.
And then the guy on my side, which was the guy that built our house, was building his house down there. And then the people across from there, and that was the end of the road, the dirt road. And she had, remember that?
The lady with the horses.
Pat, Crazy Pat.
Yes, yes.
And she had horses that she would ride up and down in the property that wouldn't set foot on our property. Okay, I don't know if what this woman said was true or not. I never saw the horses up near our property. But she talked about all kinds of stuff being seen down where she was and this structure she had down at the bottom of her hill. Remember that little cabin type thing that we went down to?
Well, she was hoping that night that when you and I had walked, while they were still investigating at your property, we went over there, and she was hoping that we would experience what they experienced. But
in her barn,
yeah.
But there was something I never talked about because it was right before I moved away from there in 2008. The guy that had built our house, I had started talking to him because he was then my neighbor. Started talking to him about some of this stuff that was happening. And one night, he came over and he was standing in front of, on our circular drive there, and he said that he was sitting on a flatbed trailer at the edge of his property. It was night. He was just looking at the sky and enjoying the breeze, and all of a sudden he heard this sound like somebody coming through the bushes, stomp, 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 and like running all the way up to him, and it just shocked him. He jumped up and he turned around, and there wasn't anything there. And right when he was telling us this story, something hit his leg, and he jumped. And it's like, see what happened? And he looked, he slapped it. There was no bug. There was nothing there. And we couldn't figure it out. The next day he came to my house, and the whole inside of his leg, up and down, was completely black and blue.
Oh, my God.
And they could never see what did it. It was almost like you weren't allowed to talk about it.
Now, the neighbors are kind of far, but the next house on the side of you, if you're facing your house to the right, that guy up there, what was going on? Because last time we talked about him, he was trying to sell his house and get the hell out of there.
That was the one I was just talking about. He was trying to sell his house. It's beautiful. He built a beautiful 5,000 square foot cedar home up there. And his daughter and his wife were so spooked by things that were going on out there that they wouldn't even go outside. So he was trying to sell his house, and from what I know, the prices dropped after the real estate thing went down, and he's still there as far as I know. 'Cause my ex-husband still lives in the house up there.
Does he ever tell you? I think he doesn't believe in the paranormal. Is that right?
No, he does. He absolutely does.
So has he been experiencing anything?
You know what? He's never there, and when he is there, he doesn't hear well. So, he gets home late at night. He goes to bed. He gets up and he's gone. So he's not really there. And his family lives down in the valley, so he doesn't spend a lot of time up there. So, and I think even if he did, he probably wouldn't tell me because he doesn't want to even talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Like my daughter won't talk about it either, and I don't blame her, honestly.
But
no, because it was just chaos for 2 years.
Oh, but all the other stuff that was besides on the outside, the things that were going on in the inside.
Yeah.
Well.
My son was having problems up in his room. He was talking to kids that.
Well, didn't they used to throw rocks at the window from the outside?
He said that they were throwing rocks at the window, and I tried to get him to come outside and play, and it was bugging him. And then he would have conversations up in his room, and I thought he was like playing a video game or something. He had one of those little Atari or Nintendo or whatever systems. And I would go up there, and he doesn't even have it on. And he got to the point where he wouldn't even sleep up there. Wouldn't even go up there anymore. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because he was scared, because he didn't know. He wasn't involved in any of this investigative stuff. Mm-hmm. You remember we had him sent somewhere else during all that.
Yeah.
He just was bothered by whatever was in his room, wouldn't let him sleep. And he would just, he thought that everybody saw what he saw. And it wasn't until I left when I finally told him about everything that had happened, because I was in talks with a TV show about being on my ghost story, and I knew that he would hear about it and know about it, and I wanted to tell him, so I took him for a ride one day, and this was after we had left and we'd moved up to Montana, and I told him everything, and he says, Mom, there were 7 people upstairs that used to talk to me. I said, 7, and this, he's 8 years old at this, 8 or 9 years old at this time, and I said, 7? He says, yeah, and one guy told me that I wasn't supposed to tell you what I was saying, but he was saying to me.
Wow.
And he didn't even know that this was what was happening all around us at that point. Other than the times when I got scared a couple times outside and came in, he knew about that, but he didn't. He said he saw stuff outside, but at that age they don't really. But it's the whole thing is you can attribute all that other stuff that happened inside, the kids. The thing, running across the deck, to paranormal activity. It was the being that ran across the road, which my daughter and I ended up naming Vincent because we didn't know how to refer to him. So we stood outside one night. What do we call him? We can't keep calling him the weird running man.
You tried to find other people that may have had that same vision of what you had. How did that go?
That's why I started writing about it on TAP's main forum. I was looking for somebody who had seen the same thing, and there were people from, literally all over the country. And there were people in Scotland, there were people in London, there were people in Australia, but I never found anybody ever. The only person that came close was, I had a talk with Paulino. He was on Coast to Coast one night, and I was living in Iowa. I was gradually moving myself as far away from there as I could, and now I'm in New York. I don't think I can get much further. And I had written to Paulino after his stint on Coast to Coast, and in the subject of the email, I just gave a tiny little description of Vincent. And he called me back, and I was shocked. And I spent 2.5, maybe 3 hours on the phone with Paulino, and that was probably the best conversation about this that I've had to date, because he said he had seen something similar. He knew what I was talking about, and he believes they're interdimensional. But interdimensional could be an alien. It could mean several different things.
Yeah.
And he says you're not alone. And I hope someday that he'll put me in contact with somebody who's had the same experience. But we did have one guy that had written in to the main forum that said that he had a similar experience in a town up near where I lived, which was very similar. And it was funny because it always seemed to happen either before or after rain.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know what that has to do with it, but and he was always running in the same direction. Sometimes he was running across the road. Sometimes he was running down in front of our road, down the middle of the road.
Yeah.
But he was always running towards the end, towards that end of the...
Oh, wait a minute. Toward the dead end or the open end?
Towards the dead end.
Oh, God. Really? Did we ever go down there? I don't think we ever went down there and did any EVP work or anything.
I don't know if we did down Crazy Pets, but we tried to do work. The first time you guys came out, we did the live show. We had all of our equipment out there, and everything went dead. Remember, all the batteries, everything went dead, and that's when the thermal footage was caught. And from then it was this Pandora's box was opened, and the thing about that was it kind of took the focus off Vincent and put it on all the other stuff, and it went in a direction I really didn't want it to go in at that point. But how do you stop it?
Oh, yeah.
You can't really tell people who you are and where you live at that point, because that was at the height of Ghost Hunters fame, and people would have been camped out with tents and,
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, that was one thing. Nobody ever knew where you lived. That would have been horrible.
Yeah, we didn't tell. Nobody even knew. I went by the name Crazy Moose. Nobody knew my real name.
No.
Nobody knew our address. It was just listed as Gold Country.
Yeah.
And it was like I was scared to death that anybody would find out. And after that first investigation, somebody from, I think it was Channel 5 in Sacramento had gotten a hold of my number. I don't know how they got a hold of my number, but they were calling. I had to change my number twice.
Oh,
it was crazy.
God. Now, Diane, you said something to me the other day about spirit lines. I had never heard you say that before.
Yeah, that was just in looking through all the avenues of what he could possibly be. I started looking at the Miwoks, the Indian, the tribe. And I went down to the Jackson Rancheria It's a hotel casino that is run by the Miwoks, and I went down and I talked to a couple of the elders down there to see what kind of information I could get about. There was a place called Miwok Village that was, you know, that little frontage road that ran behind my property? If you followed that around, you would hit Miwok Village, and you would hit these black chasm mines where they used to mine limestone and quartz, and which all ran underneath my property.
That explains it right there, you know.
Some of it, yeah. And I found this thing that the Miwoks had mapped out, these things called spirit lines, and I found a map online, and their lines were drawn in all straight, and they basically were made to bury their dead. The good people, they would bury them not near water, and the people that they considered bad in their tribe, they would bury them in cross water because they believed that the spirits couldn't cross water to come back, but they wanted the good spirits to be able to find their way back. So they had these lines that they were drawn about where they buried, and the lines went directly through my property, along that area where I first saw him run.
Oh my God.
Remember how we sit out there on the road and we look straight and you could see where the breaks in the trees were?
Yeah.
That's where the line was. I mean, it wasn't anything you could see, you know, on foot basically, but you could look at the aerial map of it and you could actually see where the lines were drawn. And it was crazy, and it goes right, but I couldn't get anybody from the Miwok tribe to talk to me about it because they felt it would come back to them.
I wonder if you could have gotten a hold of a medicine man. Maybe they could have come up and did whatever it is that they do with their white sage and everything. But he never harmed you, though.
No.
He didn't cause any harm. He
never
just
looked at me. He never. He wasn't what scared me. It was initially. It was what is he? And after I started seeing him more and more, I started paying attention. I'd say to myself, okay, next time I see him, I want to focus on this. So I would focus to see if I could see his fingers, focus to see if I could see any facial, anything other than it was a profile was all I ever got. I could never see his feet. I saw him once when we had snow. There were no prints.
No way.
No prints, nothing. Well, couldn't see his feet. It's almost like there was this thin veil.
Oh, yeah.
In an area where he was just visible, and then he would go away.
Well, hey, Diane, so when you went to go visit the Miwok Indians and you explained this to them, did they say...
I didn't explain it to them thoroughly. I said that I was having some, what I thought, paranormal activity on my property, and I lived in an area where there were burial grounds, and I wanted to maybe speak to one of the elders about, you know, what their customs and their burial practices were, and they were like, oh, I mean, it was just like I was a vampire, and they were, you know, putting a cross to my face, go away.
Oh, my God.
We don't want to, they won't talk to you, no. So, I mean, what do you do? I mean, it's not like I introduced myself. It says, hi, I'm Diane, and I saw this 9-foot semi-translucent, you know, black outline being running on my property. Can you help me? You know, people would call the authorities and have you hauled away in a white jacket. You know, it's like that's almost what it was. But you know, yeah, that's where the desperation came with me. It was like there has to be somebody else. I mean, I had people on another form that I tried to write on that started questioning everything. Oh, she just wants attention. It's like, oh my gosh. If I could give this back, I would have. Because you can't prove it. And all you have is your honesty. And the people that believed you, and there were many, and I was so thankful for those people. You have no idea how much that meant to me. And one guy challenged me, you know, like, you just want to be different. That's why yours doesn't match up with anything. You just want to be different. It's like, have 2 kids at home. I had 2 businesses that I was running from my home. I'm on the edge of my seat, don't know whether I'm coming or going at this point. It's hard to function. And why would I want this in my life? The people that seek it, that want to experience, yippee for them. But once it happens, it changes you because you no longer seek to experience it. You seek to define it. And knowing what you know and knowing what you've seen and not being able to hand it on a silver platter to somebody and say, this is what it is, please tell me.
Yeah.
It's not an easy place to be, and it's not fun. Okay, I'm so envious that you saw this. I really wish that more people would have came up there and seen him too. I really do. Because it would have, I didn't need validation, because I know what I saw. I just wanted a definition. That's all I was ever looking for. I wasn't looking for fame. I wasn't looking for fortune. I wasn't looking to be, to be noted. I don't want to be known for this. But I'm not going to deny it happened. I'm certainly not going to deny that it happened because it did. And it is there. And there is this stuff out there. And I don't know what it is. But I can't possibly be the only person that's seen this. And if I had only seen him one time, I think at this point I would probably start to question whether it was real. Yeah. Because it's been 8-9 years now. But it wasn't just one time. So, and it wasn't just me. And it was only women that saw it. My daughter saw it, I saw it, and my daughter's friend saw it.
Oh, that's really strange. Only females.
Well, the guys weren't there during the day either, so...
So, hey, Diane, so all this happened during the day, but see, we used to go up there at night.
But see, what they caught on that thermal footage wasn't visible with the human eye. No. So, there was probably plenty of stuff up there that we couldn't see.
Yeah.
If I had the money, I would have invested in the thermal camera and had it running nonstop. As it was, I spent a small fortune on video surveillance equipment, and I had it running 24/7.
And you didn't pick him up on that?
No. Nope. But, I did pick up hours and hours of really strange audio that... I still have those files. I've never given them to anybody. They're just bizarre.
Oh, again, Anita on the chat wants to know, hey, Norene, ask Diane if she was scared that she saw a ghost. It wasn't a ghost, though.
No. I wasn't scared of that. I was scared of the other stuff that came after. It's like the more you look, the more they investigated, the more they found. And I fell into the trap of, okay, well, let's try Ouija and all this. It's like, ugh.
Well, we did.
I know.
I used the Ouija upstairs in your daughter's room with Leslie. Actually, strange things were happening when we were doing that.
There's a lot of strange things. And, it's like you guys all packed up and left, and I was still there. And people don't think about that.
Okay, hey, Spooky Raven. She wants to know, ask her about the reptilian and the hobo ghost. Richard.
Oh, the reptilian guy. Well, see, now I didn't see the reptilian thing. My daughter had a friend that lived about 2 miles above us who, they didn't have a computer, or they did, but it was one of those DOS-based computers they didn't have internet. So I know this wasn't something she saw on the internet. And she said she had seen something walking by her property, which was more remote than mine. And she said she could draw it for me. And she drew it. And I went online and started searching for that. And oh my God, I found almost an identical picture of what she was drawing. That was listed as some kind of a reptoid or reptilian or something. And she drew it even down to like his 3 fingers and his scales on his back and the way he looked almost like a lizard type thing. Now, I didn't see any of that, thankfully. But she said that was stuff that she saw walking. She saw it underneath a street light. of where she lived. Now I said, well, didn't that scare you? And she's like, well, I thought it was weird. So, I'm not really quite sure how that all works out, because if I had seen something like that, I probably would have moved quicker than I did. Seriously, I don't want to be living around anything that resembles a lizard. I had lizards at my doorstep from my cat. Had the lizards once in a while. It's like, thank you very much, but no.
Bad kitty.
But, and then the hobo guy was somebody that I think Donna picked up on at one of the last investigations that he had, she thought he had followed my daughter home.
Oh.
He wasn't from there. He was like a transient. Now, see, I don't know about any of that stuff because I didn't pick up any of that stuff. But the one strange thing that did happen that I did hear, I didn't see, but I heard, right before the second investigation that the group came out and did, I was upstairs in my son's room, and I was, changing the sheets on the bed in case somebody wanted to sleep up there, and I was I heard somebody say something like, check 636.
Check 636?
636.
And you heard a voice say that?
Yeah, it was like a whisper, almost. And I thought it was just something in my imagination, because there wasn't anybody around me, but it was like it was clear. So before the cameras turned on, I went into the chat and talked to people that were ready to watch the show, and I asked if anybody knew of any reference to 636 or 636 or anything to do with those three numbers. That people were looking at Bible verses, and they were looking up notorious pages with that number on it, and it's like nobody really could come up with anything. And after I think the investigation started like 4 o'clock, and then the next day when the team leader called me with an EVP that they had caught in my son's room, and that was with Donna and Leslie were in there at the time. Do you remember Leslie?
Oh yeah.
And they were just asking questions, and this voice came through. There was a girl that helped me draw this out. Her name is Brooke Pierce. She worked with sound, and she helped bring it out with me, and she was awesome. And the voice clearly said, "Have your child go." And the timestamp on that EVP was 6:36.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Wow.
So, I wouldn't have known that beforehand. It's like the whole thing to this whole bizarre story is I have kept everything on the up and up, and I've only been honest. If something didn't happen, I said it didn't happen, and if it did, it did. So, if there's somebody out there that's had a similar sighting, or of somebody talking about it somewhere, please, let me know, because I've been dying to come across somebody with the same experience.
Well, let me show that image again. There's probably some psychics in the chat room.
They never got that. We had the psychics up there. Remember Dee Disparty?
Yeah, she didn't pick up any. Yeah, but she never saw.
Not on him. On other things, but not on Vincent. Which my theory on that is because he's not from here. So how could they possibly pick up on something? Nobody's ever picked up on him. They picked up a lot of other stuff. And I had somebody come up with the sage and do all that stuff. I had a lady fly out from Atlanta, for the express purpose of trying to, make it more comfortable for us there. But, in the end, it's like the only thing I have to do. Once I heard that, have your child go, like, okay, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, they wanted to know how your daughter was. She okay?
She's fine. She still lives in California. She's in college there, and she doesn't talk about it much. I think she would probably at this point just pretend it never happened. And she was honestly worried that she was in high school at the time. She was worried that I think that people would find out and make fun of her, tease her. You know, kids can be so cruel. She had a couple of friends from school, 2 guy friends. They were her boyfriends. They were just guy friends. They were going to watch a movie in her room, and the whole area of the house is open to below. So, you know, when I'm sitting downstairs, I could see into her room, and she had this thing where she had named this spirit Richard, you know, kind of jokingly.
Uh-huh.
Which is kind of strange because that's my dad's name. And she had something happen upstairs in her room when those guys were there. And she had come downstairs. She goes, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I have to tell you what happened." So the 2 guys are, you know, standing up in her room, and she's downstairs telling me this. She goes, "My cell phone is turned off in the corner on my desk." And one of the guys' names, I don't remember, said a joke, and she was laughing, and she was rubbing her eyes, and her mascara was running onto her fingers. And she was like, "Oh my God, my fingers are black." And the guy that she's standing in front of gets a text message from her phone, which is turned off in the corner, that says, "My fingers are black." It's from Kayla, from my daughter. And right then when she's telling me this, like, what? These guys upstairs just started screaming and ran downstairs, and they said that there was this ball of light about the size of a cantaloupe. Mind you, they never knew that anything was going on in our place ever. But she didn't talk about it. And this ball of light came in and went around them and then flew out the window and scared the bejesus out of these 2 guys.
Oh.
And 20 minutes later, they're running out the door with my daughter in tow. "I'll see you tomorrow, Mom. Please don't tell anybody at school," she's telling them. You know, and, you know, it just seemed there was just one thing after another. And I don't think I was really scared there. It was just, what kind of effect is this going to have later on my kids, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if anything, it can be a positive one, because you know things, and they don't necessarily have to scare you.
Well, didn't Donna pick up on a woman buried in the back in the woods?
I thought there was a woman that had been buried down below in the back. There was a mound. Remember that mound that we came across?
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember that.
And I was scared it was probably an Indian burial, because that was the area around there that we found the burnt post. It was an old trading post I ended up finding later. It was an old trading post, because this was all, you know, during the gold rush time. And the base of the property at the end went down to this big, huge ridge that just kind of dropped off, because there were mines all the way underneath the property, which I found out later.
Wow. Hey, I got another question.
Okay.
They want to know, did you ever get a premonition before you saw that entity?
No.
No, okay.
When I looked for him, I would look and look and look, and he'd never show. It would only be when I wasn't paying attention or I wasn't expecting it. He never showed up when I expected it. I don't know why.
Okay. Now, Callie is a psychic. She's saying that he can be anything he chooses to be and remain undetected. However, he was always that same image. Is that correct?
He was always that same image to me, what I saw. But maybe he was the little, you know, white 4-foot guy that was, or 3-foot guy that was going across the poison ivy.
That's true too.
You know, maybe that was.
Yeah.
Because
that's true.
He wasn't tall. He was like, you know, up to my knee. And I have that footage if anybody wants to see it. They'll have to just PM me on Facebook, and I can show a copy of it. Maybe I'll just upload it to Facebook or something, and people can look at it if they want.
Okay.
Of the thermal.
Oh.
That opened up Pandora's box and made everything just go crazy after that, because if you ever wanted to keep it just about what it was, that changed everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate I can't show it because
Right.
somebody claims to own that and they don't. But
Right.
yeah, that was very.
But I have a
interesting.
copy of it, so if anybody wants to see it, I'll be more than happy to.
You know, I remember one night I had the camera, and I was walking along the side of your house toward the woods in the back with another investigator, and I don't know. God, this was so long ago. All of a sudden,
you caught that mist. That was
oh, did you guys see that? Yes. I said, Devin, did you see that? It was like smoke all right in front of me. And I don't know if the viewers, because it was a live show, and I don't know if the viewers saw that. I think they did.
They did, yeah. Because you had the camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then in the camera I could see it, but then when I took the camera, when I looked to the side, I couldn't see it.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
A lot of the stuff, I think, either you could see it or it wouldn't show up on film, or it would only show up on film. It was crazy. It was like there was like this bubble sometimes up where that property was. I remember coming home one night and there was fog everywhere. But on my property, there was fog across the street, across the dirt road. There was fog at the neighbors with the weird pit bulls. But there wasn't fog in front of my house. All around me, but not there. And I remember standing out on the road during, I think, the first or the second investigation and talking to somebody, and you guys were all down below in the back with Donna. And I was standing out on the road, and the person I was talking to was like, listen, just be quiet and listen. It's like I said, listen to what? He said, exactly. There's no sound. It was like there was no crickets. There was no frog. There was no sounds, and they yelled something out, and then it came back, and it was like an echo. It's like, where's the echo coming from? Because there isn't any mountains there. There has to be something for the sound to travel back to you. It has to hit something and come back for an echo. There wasn't anything there to create an echo.
Yeah, and that's creepy. When there's.
So it's like, what is that? And it's like when I had that audio running outside that night. It was like it was so quiet that night. It wasn't windy. It was just a very still night. But what came across on the audio was like it was like a big fire, and somebody was throwing wood on it, and all this crackling, and people coming close. I could hear two girls giggling, and none of that I could hear live as it was recording coming through the house. It was a very quiet night. It was crazy, just crazy. I'm scared to turn that audio over to anybody because people are going to think, wow, that can't be right. But I have like 4 hours that I broke down into, I think it was 5-minute clips.
Oh.
I have all these different audio clips of it.
Are those your yeah, geez, we could have played some if they were yours.
Yeah, they are mine, but it's like I have them on an old format in my iTunes, so I don't know. I mean, I can send you a couple of them.
Well, we could have used them tonight.
I'd have to go into my iTunes and try to, I don't even know how I would upload it.
Oh,
to
it's
you.
too bad.
But I can get them to you, and you can play them. I'd have to go in and find them. It's been a while since I listened.
Wow. So you had the team I was on and Donna, and then you had that other team. So
first, yeah.
And so what was the outcome? What was the evidence that they brought to the plate to you?
The first team that came out was Donna's first team was the Bay Area Paranormal, BAPI. And they set up all kinds of stuff, but they didn't catch anything. And it wasn't until the second group came out when everything started being caught. That first time with the thermal footage, it's like that was a pretty high bar. I mean, what are you going to get after that? But then they got that EVP, and they got a couple other EVPs, and that thing that was flying across the road, that picture was on. You can see that on the No Earthly Idea.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That was featured on Coast to Coast as their photo of the day.
They did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yep.
I guess they couldn't take.
What is that?
They couldn't take Coast to Coast
crazy.
down. They couldn't take Coast to Coast down.
Yeah. Right. Right. But it's like all that stuff is taken on my property, so I have every right to use it. I mean, if anything, they need my permission to use it for any kind of monetary gain. Which I've never used for monetary gain.
Yeah.
So, which is not the way I would ever want to go anyway. I mean, how do you recreate it? I'd like to go to a graphics college where they have the graphic students go in and try to recreate it. I think digitally would be cool.
Oh yeah, that would be.
That would be possible. I mean, they've created all. I mean, they can create a T-Rex, ripping a guy in half. They can recreate Vincent. Maybe you ought to contact Steven Spielberg or M. Night.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. He'd be perfect for this story.
Yeah, he hasn't made any movies lately. I love him. He's my favorite.
After Earth, I think, was the last one he did. He's done a TV show, I heard.
No.
Yeah.
Oh. So anything else happening with you, Diane, paranormally?
No.
Wow. So.
Nope. It wasn't about me or my kids. It was about that property. It wasn't about me. Because where we live now, nothing. In fact, the little town in New York we live in now was featured as a season ender on Ghost Hunters one year. Scream Park, Sylvan Beach, New York. They have a old haunted amusement park they call down here, and it's about 3 blocks from where we live. And Ghost Hunters came in. It was really funny.
Oh, I remember you telling me.
Far away from it. Like, no.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad everything is okay and that you have no issues or problems. And
no, but Noah, who was little way back then, he's going to be a junior in high school, and in fact, he goes back to California in about 2 weeks, and he'll stay up there at the property with his dad, and he always keeps a lookout. Although still to this day, he won't sleep upstairs in that room.
God.
He still won't.
Wow.
So, I think after, learning everything, I mean, who would want to, but he doesn't, says he doesn't really have any problems there while he's there, but he looks outside.
Hey, Spooky said, what about the house next door to your backyard? Was there something?
That's what happens over there. The people that lived behind us said they had a shadow person in their house, and she ended up moving away before they sold the house. That's how frightened they got.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it took them a while before they I don't know, they've got a guy in there now that just comes in during the weeknight. He's a principal in one of the distant schools, and he actually lives like 2.5, 3 hours away from here, so this is kind of like instead of renting an apartment, he bought this house. So I don't know, I've never really talked to him, so I don't know if he's had any experiences.
Wow. Oh God, I'm sweating to death here. Well, Diane, do you have anything else to tell the viewers that you'd like to say?
No,
Okay.
but if they want to talk to me about this stuff, they can friend me on Facebook under Diane Zeman Marks, or they can go see any of the pictures on the NoEarthlyIdea.com website. Which the No Earthly Idea was the name of the thread I started at Taps. That's how I got that name.
Yeah, you were weren't you making a daily diary over there?
I was posting daily about it, yeah. And it got really, really big. I mean, it was, I don't even know how many pages, and they ended up just shutting it down because it just got too large. And made a lot of people mad. But I never went back, and somebody actually started another thread, part 2, and tried to get me to come back. Like, no, the whole purpose of me doing that was for somebody like me to come in and read about it, and now they put it in an archive and it'll disappear and they'll never even see it. So what was the point?
Yeah.
So that made me mad. So I never went back there and posted again. But one of the people who was part of this thread, her name is Kathy Chapman. She's on Facebook too. She made a copy of the entire spread, and it all went into the book. And she mailed it to me. It was so cool of her to do that.
Oh, that's awesome, Diane.
Yeah, I've met some awesome people throughout this ordeal. That's been one blessing. Is this community? They really stick together.
Oh yeah.
The good ones do. You know, you're always going to have the bad eggs. But
yeah, we know that.
Yeah, you know.
We've come across that.
Yeah, I know. I've been with you through that, Norene.
I know. We've known for each other for a long time.
Yeah, 2006. Anyway, it's almost 10 years now. We should celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Awesome.
Maybe we will go up to the property and do a little impromptu thing up there.
Oh, my God.
I'll go up there and do an EVP session or something. That'd be fun. We could do that during the day.
Oh, yeah, we could.
Good.
Yeah, Diane doesn't live on that property anymore. That's up in the Gold Country. She lives now in New
My
York.
ex-husband lives there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But I still have access to it if I really wanted to. Although I don't think that he'd be open to having a full-fledged investigation. But you know, you can go up there and turn on a tape recorder and see what you can get.
Yeah.
Or I could actually, you know, have my son actually bring a tape recorder and have him set it on inside and see what he can get while he's there. Actually, that's a good idea.
Oh, yeah, that's a really great idea.
I might do that.
Okay. Well, Diane, thanks so much for telling. Finally, we got to tell your story. No interruptions.
I appreciate it.
And thanks.
To relive it all again?
Yeah, there were a couple of people that were waiting to hear your story. They actually had gone back and listened to the very first time I interviewed you on the show. God, when was that, Diane? 2011?
That was the very first Do You Believe show.
Oh, yeah. When was that?
It's on it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on my channel. Was that 2011? I think that was one of the...
I think it was 2011, because I was living in this house. Yep.
Damn, that was a long time ago.
We recorded it from my sunroom. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so yeah, they had gone to watch that. Well, that's great. So at least, okay, guys. So you have an update now. You've got. Actually, I was going to go back and watch that show to see what you were talking about because that was a pretty long show we had aired with you.
Yeah, I think it was a little over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think you had to cut it down, didn't you?
Oh God, in those days, no, it just went up. I think we were using Livestream or Ustream. It was terrible broadcasting in those days, and it just went right in. And I was lucky. After all those years of shows that I had done, I only have a couple left.
Yeah, you should try to maybe put them on a disc so you have them. That might be a good thing to check into.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go away because you never know who's gonna,
I got
some trouble and get rid of your stuff.
Oh, we got them. I got them backed up on the hard drive.
Yeah.
I got all my videos now on the hard drive.
Yeah, and back them up on an external or another device too, so they never go away. So you have them.
Yeah, my techie's
But if I die, I don't want people to say, "Oh, she's the lady that had that weird Vincent guy running on her property." And by the way, we named him after Vincent Price and Vincent Van Gogh.
Oh, was that where the name came from?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Diane, thanks so much. I mean,
thank you, Norene.
I'm so happy to have you back on the show, and we got through it, and thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Diane.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Awesome. I'm glad we got through that. Okay, you know what? Everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this show tonight. And please, for those who have maybe just joined the show for the first time, if you would subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Please give the show a like. I notice I have a dislike and they didn't even see the show. I have it's in the archives. Listen, I got another show in an hour. We're going to talk about the Day at Love past incident. It's a production company that's trying to make a new movie, and he's going to talk about that. And So anyway, if you want to come back in an hour, I have another show. Go to my front page on my channel. All you have to do is click on Paranormal Zone TV there, and it'll bring you to my front page. And there's another live event set up. It's for 1 hour. We're going to talk about the Day at Love Pass incident, and Don Baker's the guest, and he's a screenwriter. They're trying to make a new movie on this. And he's going to tell us all about it. And they're trying to raise money so they can make this movie. But we'll talk about it in an hour. So hope you all join me back in an hour. Diane, thank you again so much for being on the show. I'm so happy that we were able to tell your story again 5 years later. So everybody, thank you. I love you guys. And if you can come back in an hour, I'd love to see you back in chat. And so I'm going to say goodnight for now because I got to get ready for my second show. So everybody, thanks so much. And I'll see you in about an hour. Thank you.